I don't know what
Thank
you're
you.
talking
I
about.
was losing it.
Welcome to the Breakdown, everybody. This is Aaron Barker broadcasting from an undisclosed location deep behind enemy lines, asking the questions that gets kicked out of Bible study and sent to therapy. Thank you all so very much for this opportunity, being your vehicle officers in its warehouse, farmhouse, henhouse, outhouse, or doghouse, wherever it is you may be listening to the Breakdown today, which you can also join if you would like to by going to breakthroughradio.com, click on the mic in the bottom right-hand corner, and we will play your sound off. That is right. We will play your sound off live and on. Now, big announcement, by the way. According to that, I forgot to tell you all this before we went live, so you'll have to your shock will be just as shocking as everybody else's shockingness, because it is going to be a little shocking for some folks. You're going to want to get those ears perked up, because we will be talking about that momentarily. You can also join us over on the Crusade channel. Live radio the way it should be, and on mojo50.com. Go to breakdradio.com. You can listen to us live there. Take us with you wherever you go. We are on Rumble as well. And I think, are we on? Did I go to?
You are on YouTube, yes.
Look at that. I think that was kind of an accident today. But hey, like after last week's, I don't think many people.
I can't believe we're even allowed.
Yeah, well, the weird thing about those strikes, by the way, the voice you hear is the lovely misinformation herself, Erica Sauer. Welcome, Erica. Thank you for being here.
Good morning.
And we also have the tinfoil hat wearing bearded pastor, Mr. Brian Jackson. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you all folks today?
So it's weird the way that they do the whole censorship thing over on YouTube, and it happens like this all the time on other Facebook pages that I'm like an admin on, or have posting rights and such. Like they'll ping you with something 6, 8, 10, 12 months later. Like, it's the weirdest thing. I started getting hit on YouTube for stuff that happened over a year ago. Now, some of the most recent ones that we had, I will say the most recent ones that I had were based on shows that were recent because of the vaccine talk and all that stuff. But that was like, typically they wait and it comes, several months later. So we'll have to see if one of those little narcs over there.
One of those little narcs.
Oh man. Yeah. So the little narc. Okay, big stuff to get into today. A lot of stuff to get into. A question specifically for the ladies. So we're going to be directing that towards you, misinformation, here in just a little bit. Also, we're going to be talking about.
Wait. Did you just assume her gender?
Please assume away. Assume away. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, depending on what time of the month it is, Brian, I can assume your gender.
Oh, wow.
I mean, men can have cycles, right? As far as like mood and stuff.
It's coming right out of the gate. That wasn't me, Pastor. That was Aaron.
Oh, that was all me, bro. That was all me.
That's
and
okay.
I'm sure I'm going to be getting it too.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure.
I can't wait. I've got some good stuff for us today.
Oh, goodness.
I mean, loaded for bear today.
Isn't it just weird when the pastor comes in hot? Like, that's
it's
just weird. Right?
It is weird, yeah, but you should be used to it by now.
Oh my gosh.
Coming in hot, boys and girls.
Please to the chum bucket or something.
Yeah, we're going to head right into the chum bucket. And don't forget, we'll have that big announcement coming up here in a smidge. But yeah, let's dig into the chum bucket. We're going to plumb the depths of the internet's most fascinating accounts of this life in which we live. And for this one, and for some reason, we have multiple of these today. So I apologize in advance. We do have the view hosts, Miss Sunny Hostin. it spoke up about the eclipse. By the way, we either got left behind or there was no rapture. I'm just going to say there was no rapture. I'm not quite sure
So
how.
many things. I mean, there's no new map of the United States. CERN didn't suck us into a black hole. There's no demons crawling out from inner Earth. I mean,
You know,
I'm
go ahead. I'm sorry. To interrupt
I'm
you.
just I'm wholly disappointed. I just really am. I'm wholly disappointed.
I am too. I was waiting for Apollyon to be opened up and all these chimeric creatures come crawling out with scorpion tails, stinging people. And I'll be like, hey, the dude's hiding behind the rock over there, or something like that.
For sure, for sure.
I mean,
I was ready for a part 1 of the zombie apocalypse. I
A,
mean, I was ready.
pastor Baptist, a Baptist pastor. Wow. Okay. Yeah, a pastor Baptist, a Baptist pastor friend of mine put on Facebook the other day, said worst period rapture period ever period.
I did see someone try to post up. They're like, "Oh, the rapture did happen, but it was metaphorical and invisible." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what the Jehovah's Witnesses tried to say."
I
Oh,
saw a woman post a video where she claimed she saw her neighbors get raptured. That they were good and pious people, and she saw them get raptured, and she was left behind.
I think she needs to call the police because something else happened. That's like
Right?
an abduction.
I was like, if I was that woman's neighbor or living in that neighborhood, I would say, "Can we do a wellness check on her neighbors, please? Like,
Yeah,
can someone go see if they're there?" I don't know. I don't know. It was
neighbor's backyard too, because they're probably buried in that chick's yard. It's like, well, I looked over and there was a mothership over their house. I would be like Captain Kirk in Star Trek, where he was like, well, what does God need with a spaceship? That's one of my favorite ones. That's the final frontier, I believe. Star Trek.
Did someone suggest that God was an alien?
Oh yeah, you've never seen that clip?
Richard Dawkins suggested that.
Yeah, it's actually a starship. Hold on just a second here. Let me so it is the final frontier, and it is so they end up being, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to play this clip. I'm gonna show my total geekdom here. Just a second. Let's share this screen. Is this? Yeah, that'll do that. Oh. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Now this goes like right along with Von Daniken and stuff. So what happens is they're stranded on this island and they supposedly are in communication with God, and they have one of his prophets there with them, and God starts talking to them through this prophet, and this is what he wants. God.
Is this the voice of God?
One voice, many faces.
It's like showing all these different
Project Bluebeam.
Does God need with the
Here we go.
My power to every corner of creation.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship?
Bring the ship closer.
I said. What does God need with a starship?
Jim, what are you doing? I'm asking a question.
Who is this creature?
Who am I? Don't you know? Aren't you God?
He has his doubts.
Don't you know? Aren't you God? So the whole point was this being wanted to get the starship to him so that he would be able to travel off of the planet he's on. And Kirk, being Kirk, was like, what does God need with a starship? Who is this creature? Well, aren't you God? Don't you know who I am? Anyway, that was there. Okay, here we go. Sunny Hostin. We're going to be talking about Sunny from The View. This is Sunny's this is her scientific conjecture on why and why the solar eclipse happened. So here we go.
So what's kind of crazy is with the earthquake on Friday and then the eclipse today, people are having all sorts of conspiracies about the end of the world. And then I read online that the earthquake epicenter was actually at Bedminster in New Jersey.
Right.
Fun fact. So it originated with Trump.
I have to say, I know, right? I mean, I have to say, Karen Dupiche, our wonderful, one of our wonderful makeup artists, when the earthquake was happening, she put her coat on and she was like, Jesus is coming.
I'm out.
I'm out. I'm leaving. We've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway.
The rapture is here.
The rapture's here. And then also I learned that the cicadas are coming.
Cicadas.
Cicadas. For the first time in like
no,
100 years.
No.
Two different. Well, this is what I read.
There's two different kinds of cicadas.
Yes, two different times are coming.
The good cicadas and the bad cicadas.
But for the first time in many years.
No, every 17 years this happens.
Well, that's not what I read, but maybe maybe you know better. But
in
I
a
will
way,
say all those things together would maybe lead one to believe that either climate change exists, or something is really returning.
Oh my gosh.
Climate change exists.
Listen, when Whoopi's trying to shut down the irrationality, it's gone off the rails because she's not going to do that very often. And that was crazy. That was crazy.
The cicadas.
Yeah, first, I mean, it's one thing when you have to just correct someone's pronunciation, but when they're talking out their complete butthole, you just have to be like, I'm so sorry. What are we talking about? Many, many, many years. That's as bad as Sheila Jackson Lee was talking about the occurrences of the eclipse. They don't know what they're talking about. And when Whoopi has to shut you down, you are way out of line.
The sad part about it is even after she was corrected, she's like, well, that's what I read. So maybe you know better. And then Whoopi goes, yeah, I do.
Oh yeah. So it was caused. It wasn't the fact. I'm like the last time this happened. I mean, they've reported eclipses for literally centuries, and we're supposed to be the cause of climate change, but all the other eclipses, they went on, they were regular, they happened all the time, and this eclipse, this one, is caused by climate change. This is a case of people beginning history from when they were born and not actually looking at world history from when it was recorded and when it was talked about. But yeah, so cicadas are coming. And it was funny. She's like, well, these cicadas are coming. That happens every 17 years. And these two particular broods just happen to be like one's a 7-year, like one's a 7 or 13 year, one's a 17 year. And it just lines up this time where there are trillions of them coming.
Well, Aaron, that's climate change. That's climate change.
It has to be. Like what else could cause it except for the natural course of events, the way in which God set it on this planet? I mean, there couldn't be that.
It's absolutely ridiculous. How are we not at the point where we're not just...
I'm sorry.
How are we not at the point where we're not just laughing out loud at each other? It's crazy.
Well, we are.
Well, I know we are, but we're all laughing at the same things, right? I mean, I'm hard pressed having conversations sometimes, just not laughing in people's faces.
I told my Bible study group on Wednesday, I'm like, you know what really needs to happen with some of these Bible thumpers? They need to quit being stupid.
What?
Bible
thumpers. Well, you got a bunch of people out there that are screaming and hollering that Apollyon's going to open up and that the rapture is going to take place. And you got all these stupid prophecies taking place. And it's like, these are not prophetic words. These are stupid people trying to capitalize on people's fear. And then you got people like Sunny Hostin who runs with that because she even made fun of her makeup artist. She put her jacket on, the rapture's coming. I'm like, you're going to have time to grab a jacket when Jesus comes back. Seriously?
Yeah, why? If you really thought the rapture was coming, why did you show up at work that day? That's not how I'm spending my last day. If I think it's all going down, I'm not going to work.
I'm sick. I'm just telling you.
I might not even call in.
Yeah, like the earthquake wasn't planned. Like so she was at work doing the makeup of Sunny Hostin, which I'm sure is a job in itself. And then the earthquake ends up happening. She grabs your jacket to take off running. I don't think that was planned. Like, I don't think there are any prophets out there saying that this thing was going to happen. There are plenty of, and this is actually a story from the Epic Times. I don't have it pulled up, but I did see it last night. I can't remember who shared it with me or where I saw it, but I ended up going back to the Epic Times, and it did talk about how during the eclipse there were certain experiments being run, like solar engineering experiments. And it's really awesome to actually see some of these more mainstream, even conservative, under conservative guidelines, mainstream media sites actually discussing geoengineering and talking about stratospheric aerosol injections and the poisons that are being dispersed into our atmosphere and the attempt to block out the sun. To see that those are talk. By the way, I looked up at the solar eclipse last week, which was pretty incredible. I had my glasses on. I didn't look up there with my bare eyes, but I looked up there, of course, with my glasses. But before I went out to look at the moon approaching the sun, I didn't see it. I did not see the moon approaching the sun. It was a clear day where I was. You should have been able, like, if you're looking at the big ball of burning gas right there, and the moon is approaching that, about to eclipse it, to cover it up, you should be able to see that moon. I didn't see the moon.
The light from the sun behind it is too bright. You're not seeing the shadow until it actually overtakes the sun.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make sense, because I can see the moon in the daytime any other day, shining right on it, and there was no shadow from the earth that was blocking it out. So if it's right there and it's about to cover the front, why didn't it see it? I'm just saying that's a question that I have there. I did also see the sky full of chemtrails as well. Stratospheric aerosol.
Oh my gosh! I'm dead.
Did you not see? I've got pictures. I could show you pictures of. I told my wife. I told Allison, I was like, take pictures of those for me, please. And she did. We both took pictures of the stuff. But so there was that. What was the other thing I was going to say?
If I just rolled my eyes instead of calling BS for the amount of times I would want to, out of the statement that you just made, people would think I was having a seizure. They would think my eyes are rolling back in my head. That whole statement is utter ridiculousness.
What
What do you mean? I couldn't see
I'm
the
glad
moon.
you said that.
couldn't
I'm
see the
glad
moon
you said
coming
that.
up. Like, what? Are you kidding me right now? There are only certain times during the day that you can see the moon when it's out. It's always there. But there's only certain times of the day that you can see it. It has to be coming at the right angle. And the fact that you couldn't see it approaching until it started to cover the sun makes perfect sense.
I don't see how it makes perfect sense if the sun is shining on the moon, if it's approaching the moon. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say. If it's approaching the moon or approaching the sun in the broad daylight, right there, we should be able to see that. I mean, it just makes sense. But what my daughter and I did, I mean, y'all can't prove me wrong on that. I'm just wondering why. I'm asking a question. Why can't
we can prove you wrong every single day?
I know. I'm asking why couldn't we see the moon approaching the sun?
I could.
No, you couldn't. I didn't see it.
So because you couldn't see it from where you were with your chemtrails or your cloud cover or whatever you had going on, means nobody else could see it?
Show me the pictures. I mean, prove me wrong. Show me the pictures. I mean, anybody in the world, show me a picture.
Oh, Michael, don't do that. Michael, don't do that. Oh.
Now, see? Okay, hold on. Michael wants to touch on my whole theory that I sent you guys, the complete crackpot idea that I sent you guys, that you were both laughing at. So, look, Michael, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but if the earth were flat, something that would have occurred, okay? If the earth was flat and you had CERN and you had HARP both activated at the same time, it would have caused an ellipse, and then you would have caused an earthquake over the New Madrid fault line, and the map of the United States would be completely different. And we had the eclipse, we had CERN, we had HARP all activated, and we're all still here, and there's no giant river running up the middle of the United States, which is what would have occurred were there a dome and those other things happened. So there's no dome. No dome. No dome. We're done. I'm done with it.
That's like the worst circular argument I've ever heard in my life. If this happened, this would have happened. Since it didn't happen,
no, it's not very circular. Right.
But
everything happened except for the dome was not present. Therefore, you didn't have the catastrophic destruction. Period.
No, I'm
Period.
not sure that, Brian.
It's not my fault. You can follow the science.
This is the conversation I wanted to have. This isn't the conversation I wanted to have. I was asking a question, and what you posted, Brian, that means stupid. It's also a straw man argument. So use intelligent arguments if you're going to argue with people, Brian. That's the best thing to do. Second, the other thing I really wanted to tell you all that.
Why are you pointing at me? She's the one's got the argument.
You tried to share that stupid meme. That's why.
Because it's a funny meme.
It's actually it makes no sense. It's stupid. First off, okay. Because first off, that depicts a lunar eclipse, not a solar eclipse. And second,
I know that's why it was funny.
No, it wasn't funny. There was nothing funny about it.
Oh my god!
The thing that I redid that I wanted to tell you all about is my daughter is away at college, and I was obviously at home, and we're both big Pink Floyd fans. So we calculated the time, and she was like a minute and a half ahead of us for max. What do they call it? It wasn't like the full eclipse, but it was like max coverage or something like that. She was like a minute and a half ahead of us. So we timed it and coordinated correctly, and we hit play at the same time on Dark Side of the Moon. So as the sun reached max, as the moon reached max coverage of the moon, of the sun, it was the line that said, and everything under the sun is in tune, but the sun is eclipsed by the moon. It was so awesome. It was awesome. So we were listening to Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, the entire time that the eclipse was happening, which was pretty incredible.
Very bohemian of you, Aaron.
You can make fun of me on that too, Erica. Go right ahead. I guess the Dark Side of the Moon could not have been coordinated with the eclipse because there's no dome. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure.
I was being very serious.
You know what? Something else caused that happened during the eclipse that was blamed on it, not climate change, on the eclipse. A woman was arrested Monday in Florida for allegedly shooting at motorists on the interstate, which she reportedly claimed was at God's direction because of the solar eclipse. Taylor Nichelle Celestine, 22, shot randomly at drivers on Interstate 10 in Holmes County while careening down the highway in a purple Dodge Challenger with Georgia plates, according to the Florida Highway Patrol. Within 5 miles of getting onto the interstate, approximately 115 miles from the Alabama border, Celestine grazed one motorist when she fired multiple shots into the victim's window, she said. Police said the victim, who was also struck with glass from the shattered window, was able to steer away by moving to the shoulder of the highway. As she drove west, the crazy eclipse lady allegedly shot another driver in the neck, who was subsequently transported to a nearby hospital where he was treated for injuries. Responding to reports of an active shooter, Florida Highway Patrol said they conducted a felony traffic stop around the 96-mile mark where they searched her car. She was taken into custody without incident, charged with attempted murder, aggravated battery, and with a deadly weapon and improper discharge of a firearm. Authorities later learned she was checking out of a local hotel. She told the staff she was going to embark on a shooting spree because God told her to in relation to Monday's solar eclipse. Florida was not in the eclipse's path of totality on Monday, though the people in the state could see a partial eclipse. Experts did not warn of an increased crime risk. So there you go. There's another weird thing to chalk up. Some lady goes crazy saying God told her to shoot people because of an eclipse. That's great. There's those Bible thumpers you hate, Brian, right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Those Bible thumpers. I'm sure she probably never cracked open a Bible one bit at all. So get this. This week, good old, well, you know what? I'll tell you what. How much time do we have left in this segment?
About a minute and a half.
We will. Okay. O.J. Simpson kicked it this week, died of cancer, and all of his kids, including the two with murdered wife Nicole, were at his side in the final days. Friends, family, and medical staffers were forced to sign NDAs as they were around O.J. Simpson. I guess they wanted to make sure that if he dropped any kind of deathbed confessions, that they would not be able to disclose that to the media. That's pretty crazy to me, that the family had to sign an NDA. But what did Sonny Hostin have to say about his acquittal? We'll find out when we get back right here on The Breakdown.
Ask little questions that get you kicked out of Bible studies and sent to therapy.
You're listening to The Breakdown.
Hi, it's Doc Thompson for Matthew 25 Ministries. Matthew 25 Ministries is one of the few charities I'll actually endorse because I know them. I've worked with them, and I know almost all of the money that you donate goes to help people. Go to m25m.org, m25m.org.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
For a premium subscription to just $5.
800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. I was busy eating this delicious meal from preparewithmojo50.com. You look hungry. Do you want some? Of course you do. Get your own. You can go to preparewithmojo50.com. That's preparewithmojo50.com. You can't have mine.
Welcome back to The Breakdown, folks. Thanks so much for staying with us during that break. And I want to let you know here, just a second. I want you to see my beautiful shining face. There we go. All right. Everybody can hear me, right? Okay. We are, just a big heads up. They're over in the Crusadum Stadium chat room. Several people are hanging out with us over there. That there are some tech issues. Yes, I am in a temporary studio right now. We should be getting into the new studio, hopefully here in the next at least month or 2 months is when everything should hopefully be done in that area. Then we'll be able to finally get everything worked back out. I really, really do appreciate everybody hanging with us and making sure that you still support us. It's been really great. We've seen people, reaching out to us, folks that have been doing some amazing stuff and helping us out, and just been absolutely incredible. The community is really rallying behind us on that. And just a second here. All right. The big announcement. So to next week, I'm actually in the process of migrating our website over to Substack, because Substack's pretty awesome. And a lot of great things going to be helping out over there. So we're going to be starting some newsletters coming up here in the next several months, some things you all can connect with. There's a chat feature over there. A lot of great things you can connect with when it comes to Substack, but one of the things that we will not have over on Substack is the sound off. So this week and next week are the last weeks that you are going to be able to call in and do a sound off during the show. Now, that could be temporary. We might fix that in the future. If we can find a solution for that in the future, we'll be utilizing that. However, just want to let you know, if you want to get in your last couple of digs there, get in your last couple of sound offs, you can do that. But the great thing about it is you're still going to have the live chat during the show every week on over at the Crusader Stadium chat room, live radio the way it should be on the Crusade channel, on Rumble, on Facebook, and then of course the chat feature that we're going to have there on Substack as well. So all of that is going to be available to you, but it's just not going to have the sound off feature. So if you want to get in those last few digs, go to breakdradio.com, click on the mic in the bottom right-hand corner. We will also be able to play that sound off for you as a going away for the sound off. It'll all be part of that. Now, we did talk right before the break that O.J. Simpson was done. El Dedo, his next act will be standing before God, receiving his judgment, and will have absolute justice for what he did. So here's what Sunny Hostin said when she was. I told you I was going to have a couple of these clips, and I didn't necessarily do this on purpose. It's just when you start finding one clip, and then it just kind of snowballs. You know how that is, Brian. You kind of go into this rabbit hole, and you find one clip, and then there's another clip, and then you're like, wow, some people out there really need an education on certain things.
What's funny is it, like you said, it just builds. Like you think you're on one story, and by the time you're done, you're completely somewhere else in a different like existence.
Yes. Well, I do this all the time. Like it's the worst thing for me, and it happens on TikTok too. But you start scrolling through, and it's on Facebook. Typically, you see these reels. You see one about that you're interested in, right? And then you just start watching it, and then you just keep scrolling through, and you get sucked down into this rabbit hole of watching all of these reels and clips, etc., all the time. It's pretty insane. But here's what Sunny Hostin said this past week in regards to O.J. Simpson and his verdict, which honestly, anybody with half a brain knows O.J. Simpson was guilty, which we're about to find out as well. But here's what Sunny had to say about that.
You know, I think it was less about his guilt or innocence and rather about the system and how the system treated African Americans and continues to treat African Americans in this country. You have to remember, and putting it into context, the acquittal of the officers who beat Rodney King almost to death in front of the world's eyes was in 1992. This happened in 1994. And I think for the Black community, it was less about whether or not OJ did it, because I think even today you'll go to, barbershops and beauty salons and people will say, he did it, but he got away with it. And the police officers, police officers have killed many more people than OJ Simpson.
Also, they probably, I think didn't trust that the police did not plant evidence.
Well, Mark Furman.
So yeah, just the first part of that is that O.J. Simpson did it. The Black community knows. Now I'm sure she's not speaking for everybody in the Black community, but she's saying you go to hair shop salons, etc. The Black community knows O.J. did it, but the Black community is fine with OJ getting away with murdering 2 white people because cops murder more people than OJ did.
I do not understand the lack of ability to open a book or do the simplest search of statistics that will tell you that the most responsible party for Black people dying is other Black people. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of this BS that we have to listen to constantly, right? Somebody needs to be calling these people out for it. It's disgusting. What are you talking about? It's okay that this rich guy got away with murder because he was Black, and Black people are mistreated by cops. So it's okay that he got away with murder. How does that make sense to even a 7-year-old? I mean, I can explain that with donuts to a child and they're going to understand it.
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous.
And it does speak to the massive inability for some folks to be able to even conceive of justice. Because OJ, when you're on trial, you're not on trial for an entire people group or population. You're not on trial for other crimes being committed. You are on trial for the crime you committed. There are even cases where a murderer is being tried for multiple murders. And in most cases, if you're charged with murdering citizen A, you're tried on the evidence just for that, and then you're tried and convicted. When you are tried for murder of citizen B, your prior bad acts or other convictions cannot play into the decision of the jury on that case, because it has to be a case by case basis. And in this situation, they're saying, forget all that, throw all that out, let OJ go, acquit him, because cops are bad. So justice for two people that were brutally murdered is out the window, simply because OJ becomes the representative for the entire people group or population.
Yep. My favorite theory is them trying to make a martyr out of him by saying that he went to his deathbed, keeping the secret that it wasn't him, it was his son, with the dog hairs on the hat and the knife that matched, but no fingerprints taken. All this, trying to make a martyr out of this guy and say that he really didn't do it. And here's how the police fumbled it. And here's, who did do it. I think that's ridiculous. There's also a tweet out there. You can find pictures of it because supposedly it was deleted, but there, can I say a bad word?
Well, I mean, like, try not to.
Okay, so okay. So he supposedly sent a tweet that you should be able to find, not on his account because it's been removed, but it said, "I did that." I don't know how to abbreviate that word, but that was all it said. O.J. Simpson. That was his last tweet.
Yeah, that was.
But was it? But was it like, I don't believe that. I do believe that they had to sign an NDA because he had some sort of confession on his deathbed, and they wanted to make sure that nobody in there was going to come out and say anything, whether it was I did it or whether it was I know who did it and here's who did it, and that's how I wrote the book. Either way.
That whole book, when you look at the book that he wrote, If I Did It, that was his confession. Right. And if I remember correctly, the Goldman family sued him. They got the rights for that book and they published it as his confession.
Yes.
To everybody. So I mean, like, it's, there's no evidence. I think there's only like one person that did a documentary that thinks that OJ's still innocent. There's like everybody out there knows, oh my gosh, this guy did this.
Right.
And to hear that this admission was, well, this case wasn't so much about whether or not he was guilty. It was whether or not cops were bad. It's like, look, that is not what this was about. But I'm glad that we serve a higher, and she was an attorney, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything anymore, Aaron. I mean, you've got countless attorneys and prosecutors across the country that are completely dismissing anything that has to do with actual crime and punishment.
The actual irony of it is that what they complain about is that the famous people getting special treatment, the rich people getting special treatment, and the white people getting special treatment, right? This was a rich black man who got the most special treatment ever, and they don't care about any of that. He got off on a technicality. There are hundreds of murderers who go scot-free annually. It's not a big deal. It's not a big famous thing. He got special treatment just like every other famous rich person, no matter what color they are, but they can't say that. They can't come out and say that.
Yeah. All right, folks. You can sound off on that, by the way. BreakDRadio.com. Click on the mic in the bottom right-hand corner, and we will play that on air. Now it's time for everybody's favorite segment.
You're teaching some bad theology. Your bad theology's annoying me. Oh, you're teaching some bad theology. Repentance is the only cure that you need.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is the part of the show where we play bad theology and then we make fun of it or poke or mock or definitely point out the bad theology-ness of it. and then we let you all enjoy. This is looks like proof that hell is a lie. This is sight unseen, so this is a TikTok video of Brian. Is this correct? This is a Christian witch, or no?
This is just a witch. I don't know if it's a Christian witch or not, but it's just a witch.
Okay, and this Christian witch, or this witch here, claims that she has absolute proof that hell is not real. Let's see what she has to say.
You want to know why most Christian witches are not afraid of hell? Because there is no such thing as hell. It is completely contrived. It is made up, conjured out of the minds of humans. It is nowhere to be found as a comprehensive doctrine in the Bible. And I'll give you a little proof. Quoting from the book, Raising Hell, the doctrine of eternal torment was not a widely held view for the first 5 centuries after Christ. Do the research on hell, and what you will find is that the hellfire doctrine of eternal torment came into existence 400 to 500 years after Christ. I ain't afraid of hell because there is no hell.
Okie dokie then. Considering that Jesus talked about hell more than he talked about heaven, you probably ought to check your sources and not use somebody else's writing about the Bible to critique the Bible.
To be honest with you, I would love if there was no hell. I mean, because and I say that, of course, I say that with my human twisted understanding of justice and my desire for no one to be in pain, right? And my desire for everybody to be happy and to get along and to be fine with things and to believe we live on a flat earth. That is all I want, right? I don't want people to be in pain.
That's what Satan wanted. That's what Lucifer wanted.
I'm not sure if that's what he wanted. Satan wanted everything. He wanted everything to be for him instead of being for God. But to look at this situation first, there are 2 things. She says that the doctrine of hell did not come into Christian theology for 500 years, right? But the Old Testament was written thousands of years ago. It was in regular use by the disciples and by Jesus Christ himself. And in Exodus 22:17, it says, "You shall not tolerate a sorceress." In Leviticus 19, it says, you shall not practice divination or soothsaying. And it says that a woman or a man who has a ghost or a familiar spirit shall be put to death. That's pretty clear and cut when it comes to witches and witchcraft and using divination and mediums, etc. I mean, like that's what it talks about there in the scriptures. Okay. In Revelation, it says that the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. So there are scriptures in the Bible that are very clear when it comes to the fact that there is a hell. And preaching and teaching and talking about and telling people about the doctrine of hell, although not the reason to repent, the reason that we repent and trust Christ is because of the goodness and kindness of God and what Jesus did for us. Yet we're told in Jude that we are to snatch people from the fire, plucking them like a firebrand from the fire, pulling them right out of the burning flames, right?
Yep.
And we're supposed to use that. Some have compassion, making a difference. On others, save with fear, right? So we preach the full counsel. We preach the full gospel of God. When it comes to the doctrine of hell, when it comes to the doctrine of salvation, when it comes to the doctrine of the Trinity, etc., all of those things have to be taught appropriately. Otherwise, we're not doing justice.
Curtis said, "Why are there only mediums and never smalls or larges?"
That's funny. I was asking the same question from the Facebook chat. What's a Christian witch? I don't even know what that is.
It's an oxymoron of people who are going to die and go to a place they don't believe in if they don't get their life straight and give it to Jesus.
Okay, second question. What is a familiar spirit? Is that what you just said when you were
Yeah.
just reading that last passage? What do you mean by that?
Familiar spirit would be like what we would look at as a demon or a ghost,
Okay.
something like that. So all of these are derivatives. All demons, and according to the Book of Enoch, demons are the Book of Enoch or the Book of Enoch. The demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim that were killed in the flood. So there are demons and familiar spirits. So one of the other ways I like to look at a familiar spirit is when we talk about infestations, hauntings of certain places. There are demons that exist there. There could be ghosts. I'm not saying that there can't, but a familiar spirit would be someone that knows so much. They are familiar. They know so much about people or things, and then they use that to entice people, or they use it to manipulate people or give false information to lure people into doing stupid or evil stuff. So that's all. I mean, it's all part of that spiritual warfare there too. But the most important thing is when you rebuke demons at TJ Maxx. Looks here like we've got another one of these videos about spiritual warfare.
TJ Maxx.
TJ Maxx. I guess they're going to rebuke those deals and those sales that are not deep enough discounts. Let's see what they have to say here.
Zodiac collection, essential oils. How do they even know what a demon smells like? That's what I want to know. You want to infuse your house with a spirit? What does the Aries even smell like? Trash, garbage? I rebuke this. I rebuke this.
I rebuke this.
No. This is a witchcraft, and to think you're gonna let this into your home to influence your child.
I think this is
We got a magic wand. We got a crystal ball. We're not gonna do that. Not today. Not
We're not indoctrinating our kids today.
No.
I rebuke you.
The blood of Jesus, crystals cannot heal you. A shiny rock cannot heal your body. The blood of Jesus heals you. This keeps being. This is where all the witches must go, because I'm just telling you, astrology. No.
This is for kids.
No.
This is for children.
No.
What is TJ Maxx?
I don't understand. That is
This is disgusting. This is how to get a demon 101. Come to TJ Maxx and start buying stuff.
Okay, so this is like a parody. They're kind of making fun of the stuff in there, but all these products. I mean, now there is a bunch of New Ageism that's creeping into Christianity, and New Ageism that's creeping into churches that's been doing for a long time there. But I think that's just a joke there. But hey, there's another thing. I hope. All right, well, there's bad theology for y'all. You can go to breaktbradio.com, click on the mic in the bottom right-hand corner. We'll play your sound off. If you want to rebuke some demons out of TJ Maxx or speak to familiar spirits, there will be no witchcraft here. There will be no witchcraft here. I tell you.
Don't make fun of me. I was asking that question because I wanted to there are people that say that they have their dead family members that do stuff from time to time. Is that a familiar spirit, or is that,
dead family members that do stuff from time to time?
I think those would be classified as demonic familiar spirits. Yes.
Really?
Yes. I don't believe Grandpa hangs out in the garage after he dies. I'm sorry, I just don't. The Bible says that it's appointed unto man once to die, and after this the judgment. So Aunt Lulu is not hanging out in the front porch, and Grandpa's not hanging out in the garage because they have unfinished business. That's a bunch of hogwash.
Well, I mean, just because it says well, I'm doing the radio show and after this I'm going to eat. That doesn't mean that right after this I'm going to go get me a bite to eat. That means at some point after this I'm going to eat. Or it is a radio show, and then after this,
I swear, if I argued that water was a liquid, you would say, no, it's not. It's a solid.
Oh, I know what you mean by that, Brian. I mean, simply because I disputed something you said, I disagree with something you said.
Simply because you dispute everything I say, even if you were making the same argument.
Now, here's the problem. If I say, no, I don't dispute everything you say,
you're going to be disputing everything I say.
You're trying to trap me.
Oh, my gosh.
And if I say I do dispute everything you say, then I play into your trap. That's what you people do. That's what you people do.
That's it.
Hold on. Don't you bring me into this "you people" kind of thing. What is that supposed to mean?
Hey,
no.
You can't stop shouting amen on Facebook.
Amen.
All right, folks, you can click on the mic at the bottom right-hand corner. Leave your sound off. Michael Berry says over in YouTube chat, Jack Daniels is a spirit, and when you talk to your bourbon, you're talking to a familiar spirit. Yeah, that's.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that.
Oh man! All right, so now
I don't talk to my bourbon. Whatever.
I think I'm going to go ahead and do this story here, Brian, only because I know it's probably going to annoy you. O'Sullivan went to bat for the Biden campaign on Thursday's edition of Anderson Cooper 360, where he said of conservative Christian concerns about Biden, some of these fears are fueled by misinformation. So what this man does is he goes out and he starts interviewing people on the street, which is always the best thing to do, is to catch somebody off guard and try to make sure that they can't answer your questions specifically. So here we go. This is what they had to say about Christian nationalism and this interview for Anderson Cooper 360.
44% of Americans say the Bible should have at least some influence on U.S. law.
Do you think, is America a Christian country?
I believed that growing up I did.
Yeah. Founded as a Christian country?
Yes, it was founded as a Christian country.
But obviously in the Constitution there is that separation of church and state.
Yes, but then there's also always, when I went to public school, we were allowed to pray.
Okay, so there are two things. First off, this kind old lady, she looks very nice. But there are two things first she said that I'm like, I'm going to throw a flag on the play. First thing she said there is that this country was founded as a Christian country. I dispute that. I don't necessarily think it was founded as a Christian country. I think Masons and deists got together and they used the Bible and they used certain parts of that to create the country. But this is a great Masonic experiment, what we're living in right now. The second thing about that is she allowed him to get away with just a blatant lie, especially when he uses the terms like obviously,
Right.
Obviously, the Constitution says that there's a separation between church and state. What they need to do is they need to throw this lady an apple and then tell her to take a bite of the apple and ask, what do you mean by that? Every time this dude asks her a question while she's munching on an apple. Because if it's so obvious in the Constitution, please show me where the Constitution says that there is a separation of church and state. I would really like to see that.
It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't say that in there. Anything. It doesn't say anything about the separation of church and state in the Constitution.
There is no that was a letter, as everybody knows. That was a letter written by Thomas Jefferson that was outside of the Constitution. It was not used. Do you realize that? Those letters were used. Not even the preamble is part of the Constitution itself, meaning that it has no effect on how you interpret the rest of the Constitution. Right. So when you try to even go outside of that and utilize letters that were written between two people to say that that we should have the separation of church and state, it doesn't exist. What they're trying to do is they're trying to paint Christians as being nutbags. The whole point of this is to talk about Christian nationalism and stating that Christians are crazy. They're wanting to rule this nation as a theocracy. Now, that is our goal as a Christian. That should be your goal, to eventually have the country led by Christians. But the difference between that approach and Christian nationalism is that Christian nationalism is a top down rather than a bottom up. Christianity looks at the bottom up. We move through the ranks. People get saved. They go into positions of power in your local community governments, your state governments, federal, etc. And then you work up and then you change it from the bottom up, starting with the family. Whereas Christian nationalism says, hey, everybody's going to be like this. So this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to lead the nation. And I can't help but think that the reason they're throwing this canard out there about Christian nationalism so heavily and so hard is that there's a desire to make Christianity on par, and they've been doing this for a long time, to make it on par with jihadism or radical Islam, right, where it's a theocracy. Now they paint people as being radicals, and they're saying that that it is now necessary for Christians to take over the country, and they're going to have their very own Christian jihad there.
Right. Well, that's why the big term Christian nationalist is being purported in all of the mainstream media. Anybody who has anything to do with a Christian church, anything to do with any kind of moral right, any kind of, hey, we shouldn't be killing babies, or hey, we shouldn't be doing this, or whatever, that is being seen as now you're militant and you are the problem. You are the one that is the non-believer. You are the one that's out just to kill and destroy our way of life. You are the ones that's censoring us. You're the ones that telling us what we can and can't do and where we can and can't go. And by the way, all you are clinging to your Bibles and your guns. I mean, this has been going on now, Aaron. I believe, like, back since the Bush time frame, when he was up against who was he running against? Barack Obama. When they started that garbage with Barack Obama, and they started the whole thing about how that Christians are just not even shouldn't even be in regular society. We're a menace to our nation.
Right.
It's been, I mean, you can go back pretty far.
Oh, yeah.
In 2015, my daughter was told she couldn't wear a cross necklace to school or bring a Bible as free time reading material.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell my kids, well, they're not going to be in that position, but if that was ever told to them, I'd be like, yeah, you're taking your Bible, and I want you to read it. If you get kicked out because of that, well, praise be to Jesus. All right, folks, that's it for hour one. We'll be back here momentarily, so stay with us. Keep watching like you We'll talk to you. All right, folks, I think we're good.
All right, I'll be back.
Sounds good. If everybody needs to take a break.
Yep, I'll be back.
All right, be prepared, folks. We're about to break some people's hearts. That's right. Welcome back to the Breakdown, everybody. This is Aaron Barker. We've got Misinformation and Brian, the bearded Pastor Jackson, joining us here on the show as well. We've got a boatload of people that are hanging out with us over on Rumble and over on Crusade, in the Crusader Stadium chat room, Crusade channel, live radio the way it should be, on Mojo 50 as well. All of those are places where we can now have communication with one another and hang out with each other. And as mentioned last hour, we are discontinuing the service that I'm using right now for the sound offs and for the website. That great website, great folks over there, just not enough to what we're trying to do to reach a larger, broader audience. With the new platform over on Substack, it gives us the ability to focus on writing, on doing articles. When I say us, Erica and Brian are also involved in all of this to the extent that they want to be. We'll be writing there, producing some. Hopefully, once I get settled in the new studio, be producing more shows and more content to have out there as well. And I've already got some ideas on newsletters. I want to do like theology newsletters, some paranormal newsletters, some odd newsletters, some Flat Earth newsletters, all that stuff, all those things, just to let people know.
I'm in. I can't wait.
Oh, I bet that's going to be great. It's going to be great. I'm going to have a lot of fun over there doing that. So this show and next show are the shows that you have to submit your sound off. And then after that, we will be doing exclusively over there on Substack. Right now, until we get the domain and all that switched off, the domain is aaronbarker.substack.com. So in one of the developments over the next few weeks, next few months, is we're going to eventually have the Break D Radio over there as the domain for that as well. But all of that, again, is just slowly happening. I figure this year has brought some very interesting changes for my family and myself. And I'm looking at things and do it with a different perspective and trying to think about how to grow the show, how to expand the show, how to get more people, just to get the conversation started about multiple things. And one of those things that we're going to be talking about right now is the Golden Bachelor. Did either of you watch the Golden Bachelor when it was on TV? Neither of you were either of you regular Bachelor fans?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't watch a lot of television, so no.
Yeah, you watch like those faux championships and all that stuff. So like, I never watched The Bachelor either. I didn't watch the. Oh my gosh! Hey, now those facial expressions you're making there to what I said, is that like a way that you exhibit your neurodiversity?
That's me not swearing on air. That's what that was. That was me not swearing on air.
We're gonna have to start calling you Erica. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So I did not watch the Golden Bachelor. Okay. I've never even watched the regular Bachelor. Now I did watch a couple episodes of the Golden Bachelor. It's not that I hate it. Not that it's just not my bag. I'm not
It's
into
my bag, baby.
It's not my bag, baby.
It's not my bag. I personally don't. I just didn't. And again, it's nothing against anybody who watched it. But anyway, the whole point of The Bachelor, for those who haven't watched it, you have The Bachelor, and then they go to this mansion, and if it's a bachelor, he meets, I think it's like 2 or 3 dozen women. And then each week he narrows it down, and then they spend time together, go out on dates together. And then he narrows it down even more till eventually he gives, one, his final rose. That's how they kick you off or keep you on. They ask you to have a rose at the end of each episode. And one lady goes home and multiple ladies, whatever. But in the Golden Bachelor, what differentiated that was these were older folks in their golden years, right?
Right.
So I can't remember how old the guy was. His name was Gary. I can't remember how old he was, but he was a widower. And his wife had passed away. So it had been a couple of years, and they had approached him about doing the show, and they brought him on the show to do it. So he ends up going through the show. And if you haven't watched the show, I don't really care if you get this spoiler because it really doesn't matter. So Gary Turner was his name. He ends up hooking up with this woman named Teresa Nist. Everybody loved it. Everybody went crazy over it. Not everybody, I mean, the three of us did. People were going nuts over it. They got married on live TV on ABC. And then they made this announcement this past week that they are, in fact, getting a divorce.
Yeah.
Married January this year on live TV, and now they're getting a divorce.
Did you see the backstory of this? Like, this guy's a big time dirtbag.
I saw some things about, like, he was a restaurateur. I saw some things that he wasn't exactly as he presented himself to be. There was an expose written on it. He was kind of a womanizer or something like that.
And a bit of a control freak too. Like, had like very strict rules for apparently a girlfriend he had after his wife died, and she moved in with them, I think. As the story goes, his rules for her were militaristic, and when she decided to speak up about it, he kicked her out.
Wow.
I think he has a bit of a, yeah. I remember this story coming out that he was a bit of a dirtbag.
Wow. I remember hearing something about that.
Right.
I think it was either towards the end of last year or the beginning of this year, like right before the wedding. There was a big expose written on it in like Variety or something like that I heard about. And but here is this announcement. They made this big announcement, and my goodness, it is a snooze fest. It's almost as much as a snooze fest as the show was. Hold on for me, so here is their announcement on.
Oh, she looks thrilled to be there. Just look at that face.
Yeah, look at that face.
She's the reporter.
Although that's just a pause. She could have been just in between expressions. We don't know.
Yeah. This is the reporter that's about to interview him. Here you go.
It's been a couple months since your wedding, and you have some news to share.
We have received so much love and support from so many people who watched The Golden Bachelor, and I don't think we can tell you how many people told us that it gave them so much hope. We want none of that to change for anybody.
Teresa and I have had a number of heart-to-heart conversations, and we've looked closely at our situation, our living situations.
Like just the droning on and on, like we have looked at.
I mean, listen to him. He's like a robot. This dude creeps me out.
Here we go.
He creeps me out. Look, I'm telling you, there's got to be something wrong with somebody who is supposedly a millionaire or, financially super stable millionaire, and his wife dies. And I mean, he's not horrible looking. You're telling me he can't meet somebody? If you have to go on TV to meet someone, there is something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you.
Here's the rest.
So forth. And we've kind of come to the conclusion mutually that it's probably time for us to dissolve our marriage.
Dissolve our marriage.
Dissolve our marriage. Yeah, that's how they ended up doing it. Like they're working up to it, and like we're gonna dissolve our marriage. And then the reporter just stared at him a second. She's like, "You mean a divorce?"
Yeah.
Yes, we mean a divorce. I mean, now this one of the reasons that not one of the reasons. There are many reasons. I look at shows like this, and it really does affect the way marriage is being viewed in society today. Now, I don't know this guy's backstory. He could be the most incredible man ever, or he could be the worst dude ever. As mentioned, I didn't watch the show. I watched a few episodes throughout, or just some caught up on stuff and was kept up to date. From what I saw, this woman here was extremely manipulative. And I would not have chosen this woman. She would have been out way before. But I found this woman to be very manipulative. But the whole thing that I look at on these shows like The Bachelor and 90 Day Fiance or something like that, 90-minute Fiance or something, they just look at marriage as a way, like not even as a sacred institution anymore. It is no longer viewed as a covenant between a man and a woman that is a display or a picture of the gospel on earth. They look at it. It's just like, hey, we're going to hook up for a little bit and see if this works out. We might as well be married while we do it. I honestly don't understand the mentality that, It's sin that, of course, impacts people, but the mentality that comes with nowadays when it comes to marriage, it's taken so loosely and it's looked at with such disdain. The reason they give is that they could not decide on where to relocate with their families. So it says here that Teresa vowed to stick with Gary through thick and thin, but their marriage ended when disputes over where to live became too much. They had heart-to-heart conversations and mutually decided to dissolve their marriage, which, as we saw, means a divorce. So, in death do us part, in sickness and in health, etc., etc., except for where we're going to live and move.
Okay. First, I don't know. Did they get married? It's not like they got married in a church, did they? They got married on live television. I'm assuming it was like your typical justice of the peace type ceremony, right? There's no sacrament involved in what they're doing.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was just from what I could tell, it was just on television. I don't know what.
So it's just a legal contract for these people.
Are you saying they weren't actually married?
No, legally they were married, but in the eyes of a sacrament or in the eyes of a faith-based marriage or in
That
the
doesn't
eyes
matter
of
anymore.
right, in the eyes of that type of correct union, which is what it's supposed to be, that's not that. I don't even think that's the same thing. This is ridiculous to imply that once a year they can put up a different person and they're gonna fall in love with somebody out of the 30 people that they've chosen on the show, and this is how it works.
Yeah, the whole process, the dating process, because even through this process, and again, this was my first exposure to to the way The Bachelor was done, but I was appalled there when it gets down to like the last 2 or 3 women, and then you have The Bachelorette as well. They do that show, of course, but when it gets down to like the last 2 or 3 women, you can choose when you go on individual dates if you want to have one of them spend the night with you.
Right.
So on the show, you decide essentially in front of a worldwide audience whether or not you're going to engage in premarital sex with this person. And it could be with one of them, it could be with both of them, or all 3 of them. It could be with multiple women. If I were in that situation and a woman was vying for my attention, and I found out that she had sex with another guy that she was seeing, trying to determine by process of elimination, I would be like, I'm going to make this process easy for you. I'm out.
Yeah.
If that's what sex means to you, that it's just another thing, like you're going out on a romantic date, or you go out skydiving, or on a walk or a hike. If you look at sex like that, it's just a part of a relationship and not the covenant the covenant deal that it's supposed to be between you and God, or the covenant that's supposed to be between you and your wife in front of God, and the reason that it exists, then that means you don't take marriage seriously at all, which at this point, I'm out.
I think it's really a modern day version of the match game. I mean, the only difference okay, there's not an only difference, right? But the key difference in The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, where you are a one and you're trying to choose from a several, right? On the match game, they didn't get to see them. They just got to ask questions, right? But think about now the progression of the match game turns into The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. I'm single. Here's my choices. But you're going as far as to say that it matters, like the try before you buy theory is how we're now determining if we're going to marry someone or not. And I don't think it means how they're applying it. Correct. It's incorrect.
You keep using that word, and I don't think it
I
means
don't think
what
it
you think it
means what you
means.
think it means. Right.
And honestly, Erica, that's what marriage is broken down to right now. In our society, marriage can mean anything that somebody wants it to mean. I mean, it used to be one man, one woman for life. Period. The end. That was marriage. That's all there was. That was the Bible definition. That was God's definition. And since He created it, we kind of have to go with His definition. But
For
now,
a widow.
huh?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, so there were when God made His definition, that should be what marriage is. Now we're to the point where you can marry, 2 guys can marry, 2 girls can marry, 3 guys and 2 girls can marry. I mean, everything is completely out the door, and whatever I want to call marriage is what marriage is. So just
I
like
can't
Christopher
believe you
said
left
over,
out
and
the woman and who married her dolphin. I mean,
well,
that's
you
speechless.
can marry yourself, right? There was a guy up in Massachusetts that married his stepson.
What?
But that was purely to jump through legal hoops so that he would not have to worry about inheritance tax. He was about to die, and so he married his stepson so that he could leave everything to his spouse
Come
and
on,
not.
we have
Yeah.
U.S. House of Representatives members who have married their brothers to stay in the country.
Well, there's that. We can't talk about that because that's a different religion, and now you're just being a bigot. But
I'm not
I
being
mean,
I'm not being a bigot. I'm just saying there's a difference between a marriage as a contract, which is what it is, unless
not a marriage.
right, that's it, not as it was intended. It's not biblical. That's not a biblical union at all.
Right.
And what I was going to say before is, as a widow, one of the most difficult. It's a very difficult thing. People very rarely understand reluctance to remarry or be in. It's hard. That's a hard explanation. But they're definitely doing it wrong. I mean,
Well,
they're doing it wrong.
if you spend much time on TikTok, there's this whole movement about guys that have their lives together that are not seeking marriage because why? Because there's no commitment anymore. There's no decision to be in an involved and committed relationship. So why do I want to give half my stuff away? Why do I want to upset my entire life? What's the point? What's the purpose? And it's kind of crazy that people are defaulting to that, but I mean, it's understandable because anybody can have a divorce today for any reason, and there doesn't need to be any justification whatsoever.
Cultures go through different swings, correct, right? But we have a
Mhm.
lot of weird, there's a lot of weirdness that's been allowed to go on for a long time that people just sort of talked about, not even in back rooms, but maybe not, definitely not from the pulpit. You don't hear people condemning all of the polygamist behavior. You don't hear
Right.
people condemning, the infidelity behavior. They just, you just sign the
Or the
divorce paper.
bestiality behavior, yeah.
Right. You don't hear people talking about that or condemning that in a way that it would preserve the sanctity of what traditional marriage and biblical marriage is supposed to be. I don't know. There's
I
nobody out there
remember
defending it unless you're sitting in the church in a group where that's the subject being discussed.
I
Maybe.
remember, Rush Limbaugh saying this back in the '90s, and it stands to reason today. He said, "Once you allow same-sex marriage, Katie bar the door because everything now comes into play as an option." And he was right.
So Peter Seraphine writes on the Facebook chat, he says here, marriage has become nothing more than a partnership contract. Like any legal contract, it can be dissolved. Chris Branham says marriage is not taken seriously. Make sure you understand your partner's view of what marriage is. Do not be unevenly yoked. Absolutely. I agree. Let's see here. We have Stephen saying, these are all on Facebook, by the way, the Facebook chat. Marriage isn't taken seriously anymore. Of course, we see that. Also, we were talking about that recently. Then let's see if there's anything else over here that we can pull up. Anything over on Kathy in the Berg over on Rumble says a modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. And then most reality shows are fake. Who said that? Sorry, it jumped on me. Kathy said that most reality shows are fake. Yep, it is actually. There are a lot of that stuff that is staged, a lot of that stuff that's scripted. I watched, and I love Duck Dynasty, but I watched that and I'm like, that show's so scripted. There's so many things in there that they've sat down and talked about. I mean, a lot of that's probably not as spontaneous as we would think. Another thing, since we're talking about family, the Michigan school shooter The young man that shot up the Michigan school, of course, the Michigan school shooter parents have been sentenced to 10 years in prison for not stopping what the judge calls a runaway train. The first parents convicted in a U.S. mass school shooting were sentenced to at least 10 years in prison Tuesday, as a Michigan judge lamented missed opportunities that could have prevented their teenage son from possessing a gun and killing 4 students in 2021. Oakland County Judge Cheryl Matthews said these convictions are not about poor parenting. These convictions confirm repeated acts or lack of acts that could have halted an oncoming runaway train. The hearing in a crowded, tense courtroom was the climax of an extraordinary effort to make others besides the 15-year-old attacker criminally responsible for a school shooting. Jennifer and James Crumbly did not know Ethan Crumbly had a gun. He called it his beauty in a backpack when he was dropped off at Oxford High School, but prosecutors convinced jurors the parents still played a disastrous role in the violence. The Crumblies were accused of not securing the newly purchased gun at home and acting indifferently to signs of their son's deteriorating mental health, especially when confronted with a chilling classroom drawing earlier that day. They were convicted of involuntary manslaughter, and Craig Schilling, Justin Schilling's father, told them that the blood of our children is on your hands too. So here we have these parents were sentenced to prison for 10 years for involuntary manslaughter because they did not stop their son from having access to weapons that could have hurt people, weapons that did hurt people. They did not stop their son from, or they did not help their son when he was crying out for help and getting him some type of assistance, biblical counseling or any kind of counseling or anything along those lines. And this is deservedly so. They should be punished for their lack of horrible parenting because they suck as parents.
I'm not going to say anything because we've already argued about this.
Oh, come on. This is a talk show. You have to say something.
I don't like it. The only thing that they are responsible for they were irresponsible for not doing was getting him some mental type of counseling because he was supposedly, allegedly, directly asking for it.
I mean, I think they showed the tweets and the texts. Not
Otherwise, you cannot hold. You can't hold other people responsible for an individual's actions.
I like what Christopher Branham said. He said, "Why stop there? Let's prosecute the principal, the teachers, and the guidance counselor."
Yeah,
How about the
the
school
school
board?
board.
Detector?
Exactly.
I
How about
kind
the
of
school
agree.
counselor for not correctly diagnosing his mental issues that should have been
Exactly.
seen when he's there for 8.5 hours out of the day? How about the friends who might have known anything about this kid's behavior that didn't do anything? Let's just go after all of them because they all deserve it if the parents deserve it.
You have to look at this in a logical way.
Oh, now I'm being illogical?
Well, you are a woman. No,
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh.
No, but no, the reason that this,
And Your Honor, that's when she pulled the trigger.
the reason that this is,
And it would be justifiable homicide, by the way. I would totally get away with that.
and the reason why this is different than the principal, the teacher, the guidance counselor, et cetera, is because of the relationship with the student. You know, first off, one of the things that we always talk about, and I think I've said this before, one of the things we always talk about, especially as folks who have an issue with public school, is it's the parents' responsibility to teach their kid. All right. So if the parents bear responsibility in the education of their child, why don't the parents bear responsibility when they purchase a gun for their kid and then don't properly secure it and then allow their kid to go do something like this because they don't help their kid at all.
They didn't allow him to go do that. You're conflating two different concepts.
I apologize for saying allow. I apologize for saying allow. But by not doing anything about this as being intimately involved with them, by being a parent that lives in the house with the child, who the child is texting the parents and telling them, I need help. And the parent goes on to their own horse lessons, or they go onto their own, they go about living their own lives, and they ignore what the child is actually saying, the intimate relationship that they have with their kid. and they do nothing about this, that's different than a principal or a teacher or a guidance counselor who may notice something is wrong. Because that principal, teacher, guidance counselor probably would have stopped if they could this happening in their school. But we're going to talk about this and other stuff when we get back. Keep it locked in back on the breakdown.
Fighting for your right to be wrong. Mojo 50.
Supply chain disruptions, shortages, panic buying. Unfortunately, they've all become facts of life in 2021. The good news is you have preparewithmojo50.com as a hedge against all the craziness. At preparewithmojo50.com, not only will you find emergency food supplies.
Remember when that seemed like a fringe conspiracy theory thing to do?
Not so much anymore, right? Not only will you find the emergency food supply, but also water filtration, air filtration, all sorts of other tools that you can use in the event of an unforeseen situation or emergency, which with every day that goes by seems more and more likely. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Preparewithmojo50.com. If you want to keep food on the table, if you just want to maintain some sense of normalcy, preparewithmojo50.com is the answer. Preparewithmojo50.com.
Let's be honest. Wheelchairs are heavy, bulky, and ugly. If you carry a wheelchair in your car to take care of a loved one, you know how hard it is getting that clunky, old-style wheelchair in and out of your car. Introducing the Feather Chair Wheelchair. At 13 pounds, it's the world's lightest wheelchair. It folds in seconds and fits neatly in your trunk, backseat, or closet, so you can take it everywhere. And it's only available right here. Order yours today and get a free wheelchair case, a $50 value, yours free. The Feather Chair. The world's lightest wheelchair is just $4.99 with easy payments as low as $16 a month. Sorry, no Medicare or insurance accepted. So call right now to order yours.
800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826.
All right, igniting a firestorm over there. Now, you all know I was just messing around with Erica. I think she's a very logical person. That's why she's on the show. So I do think you're logical, Erica. I apologize if I hurt your feelings on that.
Hey, wait, I didn't even say anything. You don't have to apologize to me. Don't imply that I'm fragile over here.
Well, again, I do a point to your gender. No, I'm playing. It's a joke. All right, so over in the chat room on this particular one, Iacona says that still doesn't make them guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Being bad parents doesn't justify this judgment. We don't know what they had going on themselves. There is a story, actually, while she was on trial. The story was released on the New York Post. This week actually covered this exact story, this exact article. The mother had an affair with a firefighter. They had sex parties, and this must have been an open marriage. Either that or she was openly having an affair while she was doing this. And she claims to have only met him during work hours. But there were texts that were sent from the mom. The prosecution showed text message exchanges between Jennifer and Ethan in which the word love only appeared 3 times over the course of several years. Prosecutors also showcased excerpts from Ethan's journal in which he wrote, "My parents won't listen to me about help or a therapist, and I have zero help for my mental problems, and it's causing me to shoot up the effing school." These diary entries seemed to come as a shock to the mother, who said she felt like she had an open door. He came to me about anything. She said she had never read her son's journals before or monitored his internet activity, which that's also just a bad parenting as well. Check your kids' phones. It's not an invasion of privacy. Check your kids' phones. And I'm sure everybody would agree with that. But he is responsible. The young man is responsible for his own actions. I agree 100%. I don't think that he should have any leeway whatsoever. He chose to take this weapon. He chose to go into the school. He chose to shoot these kids up. He chose to do this. Now, his parents weren't his only recourse, right? He could have gone to the principal or the guidance counselor. He could have gone to his local pastor, his church, parish, etc. He could have done something. He was reaching out to his parents, and they weren't reciprocating that. I don't know. I mean, from
The
what I can,
charge is wrong, though. You can't. A plus B does not equal C in this situation. If he had killed himself, the parents could be held culpable because of the neglect and what would have been perceived as maybe like the ideological abuse, the sex parties, if that was all going on, right? But I mean, what are okay?
my,
That bad behavior would have led to him being affected and not being able to have normal sexual relationships or normal man to woman relationships or whatever, right? There's that effect of that. The negligence of him asking for help and not getting it. The two things. Even if he had gotten the mental health, you don't know that would have stopped him from shooting up the school.
right?
And number two, they didn't make him shoot the school. He chose to do that. If he chose to hurt himself, they would have been responsible, but they're not responsible for him choosing to take out his anger on other people.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up, Erica, is the whole point about how does my mental health make me have to go shoot up the school?
Right.
What does that? I mean, in
I could see it if he killed his parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if he killed himself, they could be
Exactly.
held responsible.
So
But
he could be responsible if he hurt him. So the parents could be held culpable if he hurt himself. So
yes.
if you apply that same logic to himself, which is self-murder, why is it not applied to other kids if he murdered them? I think your argument just fell through there, Erica.
No, it did not. That's not
did.
self.
No.
You can't make the connection between I was neglected by my parents and abused by my parents, so I'm going to go kill people. No, I was neglected by my parents, so I'm going to kill my parents. Yep. I was neglected by my parents and abused by my parents, so I'm going to kill myself. Yep. But taking it to the level of involving people who have nothing to do with your abuse or your trauma is not, I'm not going there to hold them responsible for what you did. Negative.
Well, I think that there is but with what you're saying, a little bit of conflation here. And when I say that, I mean maybe not necessarily conflation. Maybe there's just blurring of the lines here, because he independently let's just move it independentently. Ethan Crumbley is responsible for his actions. They did not get a temporary insanity case. I don't believe that they did a defense based on temporary insanity, which would still have resulted in him being locked up for a period of time, if not the rest of his life, under psychiatric care. So it still would have been some type of incarceration, which is unjust in itself. But he was tried on his own merits, and he was sentenced, right? So absolutely, we agree, and I think everybody here agrees for the most part that he was responsible for his actions, and he went to jail for that. He was tried and convicted for that. Right? What they're looking to now is they're saying, hold on just a second. This kid was trying to get help. He was trying to reach out to you as the parents. Why didn't you do something about this? Oh, well, because I didn't think he was serious. But it turns out that he was serious. So they followed the line back and said, okay, well, there were several places where you could have done something as a parent to stop it. And that's really what this is all about. And Peter says in the comments, he says that he's torn about the decision, because he said if your kid vandalized a building, the parents would have to pay for the damages. So they would be culpable for those damages of that building, which is
new thing. That's a new thing. Okay, number one, because let me tell you something. I've been in trouble for doing something I shouldn't have been doing to property that wasn't mine. And in my day, you did community service and you were forced to work to pay to make it right. You repainted the building. I had to spend an entire summer resodding the football field for riding my motorbike on it with a bunch of my friends and tearing it up.
I
My
think
parents didn't have to pay for it. I did. I had to pay for that.
but I think that there are situations where it does actually happen, where somebody actually does have to be, parents do have to be responsible. I remember a situation growing up where there were several members of my family. My brother, I'm going to go ahead and throw him under the bus. It wasn't me. My brother and several other members of the family had vandalized property. I mean, heavily vandalized property. And my parents and the other family members' parents got together and said, we got to pay this off. And they paid it off. Now, what they did to punish their kids or discipline their kids, I can't remember. I wasn't involved, so I didn't give a flying crap. But I'm sure my dad took it out in with dividends and made sure my brother paid it back. But
I mean, it was embarrassing for all of us, like for our parents. That was an embarrassing thing that we did. It was, but we were definitely made to be responsible for it, including on top of whatever our parents did to us, which was pretty extensive.
I'm going to jump off the deep end here a little bit because this kid was 15 at the time of the school shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By this time, according to what many in our society say, this kid has the ability to go out and make decisions about his body. He has decisions to make about his vaccination status. He has the ability to make decisions about whether or not he wants to change his sex or what his sexual identity is. He has the ability to go out and have medications, but he doesn't have the ability at the age of 15 to go out and get help.
At the age of 13, you're allowed to sue your parents for emancipation.
But
So,
I'm saying,
like,
I
if
just
you
looked it up. He was
right,
15 at the time of school shooting. So at 15, this kid doesn't know how to go get help. He doesn't know how to go talk to the guidance counselor. He doesn't, like you said, Aaron.
I mean, like, but we're not talking about him. We already mentioned that. We already think that yes, he should have done this. However, there is, I honestly have an issue with people. I say people. I honestly have an issue. Parents need to be held responsible for the things they do to jack their kids up. If a parent, has emotional or physical or sexual abuse against a child, or if they have emotional abuse against a child and the child does harm themselves, that parent is culpable for the damage they cause their kid.
yes.
And I let me remove like sexual predation out of that, because that's absolutely something that we all agree on that parents should be responsible for if they their kids. But like if a parent provokes a child to anger and that child does something to hurt themselves or to hurt others, that child's responsible. But come on, now there should be a link. And I think we're beating a dead horse, Eric. I'll give you the last word on this.
No, I'm good. I think essentially we agree. I just think it's really hard. Where does that responsibility end?
Right.
Your kids can make a lot of bad decisions. And at some point you can be the best parents in the world and still have a child that is a complete drug on society. And you can't hold good people responsible for bad things.
So that is something also you all could sound off on. Go to breakdradio.com, click on the mic in the bottom right-hand corner. We will be happy to play that here on air. Real quick here for all you Trumpers out there that love the Don. Trump tells reporters that he will not sign a national pro-life law. Former President Donald Trump announced that if elected to a second non-consecutive term in November, he would not, I repeat, not sign a federal pro-life bill into law. The presumptive Republican nominee also expressed his opposition to Tuesday's Arizona Supreme Court ruling, which upheld an 1864 law protecting almost all unborn children in the Grand Canyon state. On an airport tarmac in Atlanta Wednesday, a reporter asked Trump, would you sign a national abortion ban if Congress sent it to your desk? No, the former president replied while shaking his head. The reporter asked Trump another time if he would sign a hypothetical federal level pro-life bill. To this, Trump again answered no. Now, he says here, and his reasoning on this, the states will determine by vote or legislation, or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land. In this case, the law of the state. Trump said Monday via a video posted to Truth Social. Now, this might be one of those places where I have a little bit of cognitive dissonance. There should be a law, obviously, though, a federal law protecting children from being murdered in the womb. I mean, murder is already a felony.
Right.
So there's already something in place to stop murder. This specifically puts up a barrier to abortion in any state, regardless of what that state votes for. Because when it comes to children and when it comes to murdering babies, I kind of fall on the that shouldn't be done spectrum of that. You know, it's a spectrum. You know, it's a circle. It's not a line. It's a circle.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm on the spectrum of it shouldn't be done, but I completely disagree with you, and I totally agree with Trump. I don't think that the government should have anything to do with it. I think that the people need to be morally and ethically righteous enough to make that decision themselves, and I don't think putting some kind of political or law or some kind of wording in place that says that you're gonna be punished by the government if you do this is the wrong way to go. That's not fixing the problem. Just a Band-Aid.
So here is this was dropped in the Crusader Stadium chat room by Rimden 1803. He said, totally off topic, guys, but did you see Joshua Smith from Breaking the Cycle go full abolitionist on abortion? Libertarian is pro-life. Count me in. This is the video that he shared. So I'm going to go ahead and play this real quick. See, we're interactive with our listeners.
That's it. I will be the only truly abolitionist candidate on the ballot in 50 states come May. I'll be the only one if we get the nomination. There will be no other pro-life candidates. There will be no other abolitionist candidates. I will be the only one that you can vote for and go to sleep at night and say, I voted for the guy who wanted to end the practice of baby murder. I'll be the only one. Or you can vote for the guy that's like, a little baby murder is fine as a treat. Or you can vote for the guy that's like, all the baby murder's fine, it's good. Or you can vote for the guy that wants to abolish the practice entirely and bring us into the fucking current society without killing babies. Okay?
Sorry about that. I didn't know that was in there. But regardless, what the guy just said absolutely makes complete sense. I am perfectly fine with having a completely abolitionist, because when you think about it, unless you say you call yourself pro-life, unless you say that you have no exceptions for abortion whatsoever, even in the cases of the life of the mother, quoting fingers, or in the cases of rape or incest, you're not pro-life. You're pro-abortion.
Here's my problem with this guy. What he's saying there is exactly 100% the antithesis of being libertarian. It's exact opposite of what true libertarianism is, which is not having, because if I was truly libertarian, I'm not responsible for your decisions. I'm my decisions. I don't tell you what to do in any way, shape, or form. I'm not responsible for your good decisions. I'm not responsible for your bad decisions. Libertarianism says every man for himself. Don't get in my, they're like, you stay in your lane, I'm going to stay in my lane. And as long as our lanes don't cross, I don't really care what you do, because I'm not responsible for you or your soul.
There is I think this is a little bit extreme.
Well, I'm generalizing, right? I'm generalizing, but he's a libertarian candidate who wants the government to specifically say you cannot do this. And that's the exact opposite.
Like you can't murder. I mean, like you.
Well, that's already a law. That's already. He's saying, that's already there. Just enforce it.
If I'm a libertarian, I say you have a right to do what you would like to do with your body. If you want to inject your body with drugs, you have a right to do that. Okay.
Right.
But when you impact somebody else, that's when my principles of liberty kick in.
Okay. Well, now you're talking about the real problem, where no one is going, because the real problem is you need to define when life begins. Like Peter Seraphim said, if you don't define when it's life, then you can't solve any problems by saying there's no abortion.
Okay.
And I think the other thing that you got to look at too here, Aaron, is you made a statement that if you're not against all abortion, you can't be considered pro-life. And I agree with that statement 100%. Where I differ in your opinion is I believe that Trump is making the right comment about the federal government needs to stay out of it.
Stay out of it. They have no place in it.
The federal government has no place in these everyday decisions. That is up to the states' rights.
So then that's where I disagree on that. I think there should be a national amendment to the Constitution that says murdering babies is wrong. Forgive me for being the guy who says murdering babies should be built into the fabric of our nation. But
wow, no,
Yeah,
that's
I know.
that's the
The rest
biggest
of
bunch
us
of
are that way.
BS we've heard today. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Now back to my previous point about libertarianism.
We can't let that one stand though. That's not fair.
What's not fair? You just said that the federal government should make an amendment that says murdering babies is wrong. Am I wrong on that? Did you say that?
I did say that. And the fact of the matter is that our Constitution and everything.
Full stop. I said, I think the federal government should have built into the fabric of our Constitution an amendment that says we should not murder babies. Did I say that?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Boom. Then I didn't misrepresent you.
No, I think the only misrepresentation would be that Trump was saying he's not going to sign a bill that comes across his desk that outlaws abortion in the country. You're talking about a constitutional amendment, which actually is a much more specific and majority way to do it. If it's a constitutional amendment, there's a lot more involved than just signing a bill that comes across your desk from Congress.
I believe there should be. What I'm saying is I think there should be an amendment to the Constitution. I've said that for years.
Okay.
But I also, if a president claims to be for babies and against abortion, and if a law comes before him and he goes, states' rights, not signing, I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I think he should make that because we're not talking about guns. We're talking about protecting innocent children. If we have to go to an extreme measure, like having a law, which you all already said murder is wrong, but we have to specify because for some reason people think a baby that is germinated an egg that has been impregnated by sperm is not a baby. They don't think that that's life. But if you have a baby there in your body, that baby should be protected. Now, the law for murder doesn't cover that unless that life is taken against the mother's will or the mother's wishes, like in a car accident or something like that.
Or if, but hold on. It does cover it because there have been people who have been convicted of double homicide when the mother and the child in the womb are killed. We do have legal precedents set
it's
for
a
this.
double standard. Exactly. It's a double standard and they only apply it when they want to apply it.
Right. Correct.
That's why I still think, and call me a liberal if you want, I still think that the federal government needs to stay out of these decisions.
And okay, so Aaron, to your point and on your side, what Brian and I are saying is opinion. Our opinion is that the government should not have any say in any law such as this, that it should be a much more constitutional process, right? But I don't think we're debating the fact that abortion's wrong.
No.
And my saying, you need to fix the moral fabric of the country. You can't legalize, you can't just lawyer that up. You can't just, write a law and make people moral and ethical.
I totally get you all. You all are both as staunchly pro-life as I am. I totally get that. And I would not call that into question. I just, and from the outset, this is probably one of the things that I look at that is probably cognitive dissonance when it comes to my embracing of states' rights as opposed to embracing this measure, which some people in the chat room over here on the Crusader Stadium chat room saying that a federal law would be as unconstitutional as Roe. I'm in that regard. I fully recognize that somebody would have that idea, that understanding, or that opinion. However, in a worldview where we are Christians, in a Catholic worldview, as the people over here in the Crusade channel would agree, or a Christian theonomic worldview and understanding of that, where the Constitution is deficient is in those places where protecting human life is not embraced, right? So if the Constitution, if I have the Bible in one hand and the Bible says murdering babies is wrong, and the Constitution says, states' rights, I'm going to say, well, I'm going to hold out for the Bible instead because the Bible supersedes the Constitution in that regard. Now, I have the ability to balance that in my brain because I have the ability to balance a lot of things in my brain that may not be
Brian, he's saying that we don't have the ability to multitask in our brains.
I heard him. I
Right.
heard him.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
gonna just write that one down with the whole, well, I am a woman, an illogical comment.
Yeah, I heard him. I heard him.
Putting those in my back pocket.
I'm not. Oh my gosh. You can leave BreakDRadio.com. Click on the mic at the bottom right hand corner. We'll be happy to play that. All right. So we only have a couple of minutes left here for the big one that I'm sure Brian was just chomping at the bit to get to. A wet team stopped a man in Chicago and murdered him in cold blood on the street. 96 bullets fired.
Yep.
In less than a minute. I mean, we're talking seconds. And they absolutely just murdered a guy because he was black. That's why they did it. Just absolutely horrible. Dexter Reed was stopped by the police because of a seatbelt violation, quoting fingers. Now, I don't see how it was a seatbelt violation because you can't see in the windows of the guy's car. But it was the same cops. 4 of these police officers were the same ones who were already under fire for really shady pulling people over practices, right? So they pull this guy over, and the dude, for some reason, decides that he wants to fire a shot, evidently, at one of the cops, which is kind of stupid, right? You fire a gun at somebody that has a gun, and, you're going to find out. And so what happened, though, was they fired 96 shots in 41 seconds at this guy. Then when he gets out of the car, weapon on the passenger seat by this point, he gets out of the car, walks around to the front, the fire still, the gunfire continues. The guy falls on the ground. He's emotionless. And then there are 3 final shots fired into the dude from a cop. So this is people are going crazy over this because it's a bit excessive. They really don't have a reason why they pulled the guy over. There's really been no actual explanation as to why the guy's been pulled over because, again, if you watch the video, I don't see how they could see the dude's seatbelts on or off because the windows are pretty heavily tinted. So there you go. What do you think about that, Brian? Murder in the streets. Blood of African Americans are flowing down the gutters of Chicago. Go.
Well, I'm just going to say, first of all, it had nothing to do with a seatbelt violation. That's what all of the media is saying. However, if you know much about Dexter Reed, you know that he was out on pretrial release after being charged in 2023 for 3 counts of aggravated unlawful use of a weapon and 1 count of possession with a firearm after his FOID was revoked.
You're victim.
I'm just going to go ahead and say that they should just charge his parents.
I think they should parents too. Yeah. I mean, but here's the deal. Like, Brian, you went automatically to, well, this guy had priors. Those priors had nothing to do with why they shot him 96 times.
That's what, no, they stopped him because of his priors, number one, but they started shooting at him because he shot anywhere between 9 and 11 shots at the police officers who were trying to talk to him.
Okay, yeah.
They're just trying to talk to him. They're just trying to talk to America.
No, well, okay.
That's what the
Come
body
on.
cam shows.
Yeah, you're just instigating, Aaron,
Yeah,
because
it's exactly what he's doing.
this guy, you may say that their priors didn't matter, right? And they don't in a court of law if he's being tried on a warrant or brought in there for a crime, right? But when a police officer pulls up on you, let's say they thought he didn't have a seatbelt on, or I don't know, maybe they just didn't like the way he looked. They ran his license plate. All of his priors are going to come up. And that's absolutely used. That's absolutely used every time somebody runs your license plate for
Which
the simple
they do
traffic
all the time.
violation.
And the
you
fact of the
are
matter
allowed
is,
to use the seatbelt to pull someone over. They can, I don't know how dark the guy's windows were. I'm not going to assume that they could see. But if you can see in the windows, you can tell whether or not someone is wearing their seatbelt. They also know whether or not you have it just clipped behind you or whether or not it's going actually around your body. Right. And then if I'm fired upon, empty the clip.
well, and I'm going to say one thing else. They said there were 3 officers that shot 96 times. 3 officers that shot 96 times. Most service handguns, Glock 22s, carry 15 bullets. That means 3 officers had to reload twice. 1 officer had to reload 3 times in order to fire 96 shots.
And
I don't think that's possible. Not in 41 seconds.
No.
Not in 41 seconds. That is not even remotely physically possible.
Well, I'm going to have to go ahead and kind of
I disagree.
Here's where Aaron tells us we're wrong.
Yeah, we're wrong. This is the part of the show where Aaron comes out and tells us how wrong we are.
And then before we can defend ourselves, he says, "That's it for today, folks."
That's the entire show. I'm always right. And this is actually the end of the show today. And I'm going to let you all have your final say on this. I'll just let your comments hang out there. And I'm not even going to rebut anything until the after show if we do one. All right, folks, this has been the breakdown with Brian, with Aaron, Brian, and Erica right here on the Crusade channel, also on Mojo 50. I will say this before we do bolt out of here. The dude shouldn't have fired at the cops. I mean, that's just stupid because like you see these videos all the time and you see sometimes you're like, that's unjustified, but they fired on them, on the police officers. I mean, seriously, you've already got, you're surrounded by cops. That's not smart. All right, folks, we'll see you next time. This is the breakdown. Thanks for everything. And make sure you make Christ supremely valuable. All right. So over in the Crusader Stadium chat room, Iacona said, it's your show, so you're right. If we don't like it, get our own shows.
I don't want my own show.
But that is absolutely right, though. I mean, I do have the right to assert my opinion whenever I want to, but you all do too.